Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 405 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm predicting the upcoming Major League Baseball season for the American League. Just like I did last year, over the next 2 weeks, I will attempt to predict the upcoming Major League Baseball season. And I'll admit, last year's predictions were not great, but we carry on. This week's the American League. Next week, I talk about the NL. All right, the American League, I'm going to go division by division, starting with the AL East, a division where if everything goes right for these teams, I could see 4 of them winning it. The team I root for is the Boston Red Sox, and it was a weird offseason for the team. They lost Alex Bregman to the Chicago Cubs, but they brought in Wilson Contreras for a bat, and they brought in starting pitchers like Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez. So now I'm at a place with this team where I believe the strength of it is going to be their starting rotation, but you gotta put up numbers on offense when you play at Fenway Park. I don't know if they have enough pure power in that lineup as currently constructed. The Red Sox on paper do not have a guy who you can pencil in for 35 plus home runs coming into the season. Yes, could Roman Anthony develop into that guy? Could Wilyer Abreu continue to uptick his power numbers? Absolutely, but they haven't done it yet. For me right now, the Red Sox are a team that's going to compete more for a wild card spot than a division title. Then you have their rivals, the New York Yankees, who did not do enough this offseason. I get it. You're getting Garrett Cole back. You too, like the Red Sox, could have a very good starting rotation. But you are the New York Yankees. Every offseason, you need to make at least one splashy move to get everyone excited about you, and you did not do that. However, I will say this, the Yankees deserve credit for bringing back Cody Bellinger. They did do what they needed to do. They did what the Red Sox didn't do. They brought back their own star player, so I will give them kudos to that. But other than that, I was not satisfied by the Yankees offseason. Yes, they can still compete for a division title because unlike the Red Sox, they have Aaron Judge. The team in the AL East who I think had the best offseason is the Baltimore Orioles with the additions of Pete Alonso, Shane Baez, and Taylor Ward. Not to mention veteran starting pitcher who is uber reliable in Chris Bassett. Where I'm at with the O's is I'm comfortable in saying they are going to be an above 500 team. Maybe I'm going to make a mistake here, but I think the weakest team in this division is the Tampa Bay Rays. They have some talent. Their pitching never stays healthy enough. I don't believe in the Rays. I, like most people, believe the best team in this division currently is the Toronto Blue Jays. They have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They added Dylan Cease. Now is the time for the Toronto Blue Jays to be the kings of this division for the next couple of years. I will admit to having bias towards this division, but I really do believe that the American League East has the potential to be the best in all of baseball in 2026. Let's now head out to the AL West, starting with the Athletics. This is a team with a lot of young offensive players with loads of talent. I mean, Nick Kurtz feels like a guy who's going to have multiple seasons where he mashes 50 home runs, and then you also have the likes of Lawrence Butler. This is a team that has the opposite problem of the Red Sox. I think they're going to score a boatload of runs, but do they have enough pitching to sustain themselves for a 162 game season? They need a much better year from Luis Severino if that's going to be the case. They, to me, have enough offense where all they really need is one super reliable starting pitcher. They almost remind me of the Philadelphia Phillies when I first started to watch baseball. That that was a team that was all about its offense, and all they really had to rely on as a starting pitcher was Cole Hamels. That is what the A's need, and they could possibly get it from Severino if he has a huge bounce back year. What is there really to say about the LA Angels? They just need to get back to being an above 500 team before I can even take them seriously ever again. I feel bad for Mike Trout. He is in a no-win situation. Nobody is going to trade for his current contract until he can prove that he can play 140 plus games again. Kurt Suzuki is a rookie manager on a 1-year contract. How is that a good situation to be in? There's going to be so much pressure on this guy if they get off to a really bad start. Then you have the two teams in Texas, the Rangers and the Astros, who are in these really weird places in that they have remnants of teams that won the World Series, but some of that talent left over isn't what it used to be. Like for the Astros, what exactly am I supposed to predict when it comes to Carlos Correa? When he plays, he's one of the better offensive infielders. The problem is he doesn't play enough games. You need to have a healthy Carlos Correa. You need to have a healthy Yordan Alvarez. Jose Altuve is older than both of those guys, and at this point in his career is way more consistent. For my money, Corey Seager is the best shortstop in all of baseball when he is healthy. He is an MVP candidate, but can the Rangers rely on him to play 150 games? Because that's what they're going to need. I like the addition of Brandon Nimmo. I think the bigger addition is Mackenzie Gore. I think he really solidifies that rotation that already had Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi. The team I have winning the division is the Seattle Mariners. They have two MVP capable players in Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh, not to mention the best rotation in the division as well. I don't think Cal Raleigh is going to have another 60 home run season this year, but I don't think he needs to with this roster the Mariners have. They brought back Josh Naylor. This was a team that was close to making it to the World Series, and I think they wisely made a decision to not pay Eugenio Suarez. I don't think that was working out. I think the Mariners are really close to making it to the World Series. They also have Randy Arozarena, who I think has become weirdly underrated. And yes, the team lost postseason hero Jorge Polanco, but they replaced him with an all-star caliber player in Brendan Donovan. As good as the Mariners were last year, they have a chance to be even better. I don't know, I'm just not as high on the AL West that I am on the AL East. I just think, I look at there's two teams in it that I think are going to be really good, and they are the Mariners, who I think are going to run away with this division, and the Texas Rangers. The other teams are really big question marks. I don't know what to expect from the A's and the Astros and the Angels. They could be good, or they could have really rough seasons ahead. The teams I have faith in most at the start of baseball seasons are the ones who I think have really good off seasons, and in the AL West, that was the Mariners and the Rangers. I think they are better teams than they were last year. The Astros, the A's, and the Angels, in my opinion, did not improve enough this offseason to take them seriously yet. Maybe one of them or all three of them prove me wrong. The last division, of course, is the American League Central. I'll start with the Royals. I think they made really one big move that I was a fan of, which was acquiring relief pitcher Matt Strahm. He had pitched in Philadelphia. I think he's one of the better reliever setup men in all of baseball. I think this is a big get for a Royals team that's trying to take that next step. It's a team that already has super reliable starting pitcher with the likes of Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. They have foundational pieces on offense with Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia. I think the Royals are going to be legit. Then you have the Chicago White Sox, and you can only go up from where they were last year. I think the White Sox are going to be better. I'm not going to say they're going to be a 500 team, but they're going to be watchable, which is a big upgrade downgrade from where they've been the last few seasons. Really, the big move the Cleveland Guardians made this offseason was re-signing Jose Ramirez to a contract that's going to keep him there for the rest of his career. And let me be the first to say this, that might be the only move they needed to make, because despite how I feel about their roster, they always seem to compete. They've won the division each of the last 2 seasons. They might do it again. I mean, we really are talking about a player in Jose Ramirez who probably should have won an MVP or 2 by now. Because what would the Guardians be without this guy on the roster? I mean, he is the piece. He drives and runs. He steals bases. He's a 5-tool player. He's the best player on the franchise, and he may end up being the best player in franchise history. And the biggest get is he's not even getting these huge, massive deals. If Juan Soto is worth $700 million, so should Jose Ramirez, yet he's taking these team-friendly deals so his team can remain competitive. He's clearly happy in Cleveland, and they're beyond happy to have him. He's a top 5 player in the game. They, however, are not the team I am picking to win the AL Central. That honor belongs to the Detroit Tigers. I said it on this very podcast a few weeks ago. This year has to be the year for the Tigers winning this division. You don't know what the future holds when it comes to your relationship with Tarik Skubal. You've brought in Framber Valdez. You also have Justin Verlander. Now is the time for the Tigers to win this division and be one of the best teams in the American League. I will admit my picks for the teams to win these divisions are quite chalk. I mean, everybody is predicting the Blue Jays. I think most people are predicting the Mariners, and most people are probably predicting the Detroit Tigers. But I just don't believe in these other teams as much as I do these 3 teams. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that the National League is far more wide open than the American League. Like, I think these 3 teams I've talked about have separated themselves from their divisional rivals more so than the teams in the National League, excluding the LA Dodgers. For as good as I think the AL East is going to be, I think the Blue Jays should run away with that division. The Mariners should absolutely run away with the AL West, and the Tigers should do so as well when it comes to the AL Central. These are the superior teams in their division, so to begin the year, I am picking them to win their divisions. It's that simple. That is what I expect to happen, but baseball rarely plays out how you expect. So I'm probably going to be wrong on at least 1, possibly 2 of these teams. I would be beyond shocked if none of those 3 teams ended up winning their divisions, though. But it's baseball, and stranger things have happened. Let's get into my predictions for the 2 major awards, the Cy Young Award and the MVP. My pick for the American League Cy Young Award is none other than Jacob deGrom. Maybe this is a risky pick, but for the Rangers to be as good as I think they're going to be, they need Jacob deGrom. Last year, he was healthy for the first time in a while. He's won 2 Cy Young Awards, and I just feel like he's got some more great seasons ahead of him, and him winning a 3rd Cy Young Award would cement what should be a Hall of Fame career. Yes, I know everyone else on planet Earth is either going to pick Tarik Skubal or Garrett Crochet, and logically, those picks make way more sense. I still believe in this guy, Jacob deGrom. Even at his age, he's still throwing 100 miles an hour, and I think he's going to have his best season in a long time and remind everyone why he's Jacob deGrom. I think the Rangers are going to be a wild card team because of their rotation that also includes Nathan Eovaldi and Mackenzie Gore, and I think the biggest reason they're going to make the playoffs is because of Jacob deGrom. He's going to be the ace they paid for. I have learned over the years you should never count out a great pitcher because of injury. I was so down on Chris Sale in his last few years with the Red Sox. Then he was traded for the Braves. He got healthy, and you know what he did? He won a Cy Young Award. That is what is going to happen with Jacob deGrom. He was the comeback player of the year last year. This year, he's going to win the AL Cy Young. Come on, guys, I had to come up with a wild prediction. It's not very interesting for me to just say that Tariq Skubal is going to win his third Cy Young Award in a row. I really do believe, however, that Jacob deGrom is going to be the best player on the Texas Rangers this upcoming season, that he's going to have one of those typical Jacob deGrom seasons that he had with the New York Mets. You mark my words. Moving on to AL MVP, my pick is Bobby Witt Jr. It's not going to be Aaron Judge again. It's going to be Bobby Witt Jr. I believe in the Kansas City Royals, and for the Royals to be a playoff team, Bobby Witt Jr. needs to be one of the best players in all of baseball. He's going to win the MVP. I think a 40-40 year is quite possible for Bobby Witt Jr. Last year, this is a player that got overshadowed by the great year that Aaron Judge had, and also by the great year that Cal Raleigh had. I think people are going to be reminded of how great Bobby Witt Jr. really is. I think this is going to be his signature. And I think it's worth saying that we're probably talking about a player that's never going to be recognized as the face of the sport because he plays in a smaller market in Kansas City. But he will, in my opinion, this year be recognized as the best player in the American League. In a lot of ways, the American League is the more interesting league to talk about right now because it doesn't have a team like the Dodgers that everyone and their grandmother is predicting to win the league. I mean, it doesn't have that team that everyone thinks is going to win 100+ ball games. The Blue Jays were great, but that was last year and that was a one-season run. Yes, I believe the Blue Jays are going to be the best team in the American League. I think they have the chance of winning 100 games, but it's not a given. They're not prohibitive favorites. I mean, they went to the World Series because George Springer, who had struggled throughout his tenure with the Blue Jays, had his best year with the team. And then they had heroes like Ernie Clement emerge in the postseason. I don't know if that can happen again. I think a lot of people look at the American League and they see parity. That's why people are still taking the New York Yankees seriously, despite the fact that they had a quiet offseason, because they have Aaron Judge, they have Cody Bellinger, they're going to get back Garrett Cole. I can understand looking at the Yankees and going, yeah, I could see that team coming out of the American League. I do not feel that way, but I can see where you're getting at if you do. I just think the American League comes down to those three teams I have winning the division. The Blue Jays, the Mariners, and the Tigers. One of those three teams is going to make it out. I don't know which one. I'm not going to predict that just yet, but I feel uber confident that one of those three teams will be representing the American League in the World Series. Because those teams not only have the star players, they have the best overall rosters. For as good as the Blue Jays were last year, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could catapult them to another level, because I think his postseason success will lead to more regular season success. He only drove in 84 runs for the Blue Jays last regular season. I am penciling him in for a 35 homer season, 100+ RBIs as well. The pressure is off this guy. He was a postseason hero. He has his long-term contract. Now I think the time is for him to rake come the regular season. Very quietly, I also think the Blue Jays have the chance to have the best 1-2 punch of starting pitchers when it comes to Dylan Cease and Kevin Gausman. Nobody talks about Kevin Gausman. He's been one of the league's most reliable pitchers since joining the Blue Jays. I'll end the podcast on this note. Those are my predictions, and I don't know how most baseball fans feel, but I wouldn't be angry about a rematch between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. I think that was a competitive World Series. The Blue Jays came as close to humanly possible as winning the World Series. And against that team, that is beyond impressive. And I do think when you look at the history of professional sports, sports, the team that loses the championship round is going to be super motivated to get back and win it all. That is the number one reason why you should be taking the Toronto Blue Jays seriously, because they have something to prove. They were close to winning it all. And I love the fact that they paid a lot of money to get Dylan Cease, because they believe in this team. They know they have a window right now to be the best team in the American League, and that is what I am predicting. I think the Blue Jays are going to be the kings of the American League for this year. Anyways, thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Tune in next week where I predict the National League. So tune into that, and please rate, review, and subscribe.